Hello and welcome to our exclusive Bruce Lee channel, A Body Like Bruce. Thank you for taking the time to view our latest video, and this is on the book Bruce Lee Conversations, an excellent alternative to the many threadbare Lee biographies available in a fascinating read from FHM magazine. The Life and Legacy of a Legend by Fiaz Rafiq. Foreword by Diana Lee Insanto. Bruce Lee belongs among the top echelon of influential stars and iconic figures in the world. More than 35 years after his death, he remains a perennial bestseller in video stores, comic book shops, on t-shirts and posters. He has influenced pop culture more than anyone before or since. Lee was named among Time magazine's 100 most influential people of the 20th century. He has achieved the iconic status of a cultural legend and has had a greater impact on more people worldwide than Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe and James Dean combined. In this unique and intriguing landmark book, you will discover a compilation of exclusive interviews with Bruce Lee's original students, close friends, co-stars and colleagues, those who knew him best, and give their candid views on the great martial arts master and action movie star, adored by millions around the globe. Their memories and stories capture him in a way no straightforward narrative ever could. Furthermore, for the first time ever, you will discover exclusive interviews with some of the best professional boxers, bodybuilders, UFC fighters and personalities from the motion picture industry, paying homage to the legend who continues to have an indelible impact on athletes and people from all walks of life. To your delight, you will be treated to over 50 compelling and thought-provoking interviews. Fighter, film star, philosopher, teacher, fitness aficionado, Bruce Lee continues to reach us even though his light was extinguished over 3.5 decades ago. This is a unique and fresh insight into a man whose mysterious life proved one of the most startling enigmas of the century. Bruce Lee Conversations is the ultimate tribute to the man whose legacy continues to grow worldwide. We'll see if there's anything on the back cover. Inside back flap, if we can. No, it doesn't appear to be. Okay, it's just the back here. A unique fresh insight into a man, etc, etc. Can't see because of the sticker. Critically acclaimed book. This is a unique approach to biography. It's fascinating that Lee's legacy is so far reaching and unites so many influential people, from California senators to movie stars, boxing legends and MMA pioneers. Bruce Lee Conversations is an excellent alternative to the many threadbare Lee biographies available in a fascinating read, FHM. An excellent insight into Bruce Lee's influence on some of today's top stars and a new perspective on the man himself, men's fitness. And there's some more here on the Daily Star and the Guardian. Now let's have a look at the book itself. This book is dedicated to the one and only Bruce Lee, who continues to inspire people from all walks of life. Secondly, its author would have liked to dedicate this book to John Little, who did more than anyone to propagate the life and philosophy of Bruce Lee and open the eyes of many people by promoting the late legend as a multifaceted individual. Acknowledgements. Contents. These are all the students, the original students, friends, co-stars and colleagues. And so forth. Forward. When Fiaz first approached me, that's Diane Lee Insanto. When Fiaz first approached me about writing a foreword about a man I grew up calling Uncle Bruce, an honorary relative in the family that I was named after at birth, Diana Lee, I wasn't sure what to expect. This man I only knew through the eyes of a small child. In my youth I was oblivious to the fact that Uncle Bruce was becoming a famous star, had numerous martial arts students and associates, travelled around the world and was passionate about philosophy. I did know that he and Linda had the coolest kids to play with, Brandon and Shannon, the bliss of youth. Then life took a different direction in my family. What became apparent to me at the tender age of 7 was that Uncle Bruce was an important figure in my father's, Dan Santo, life, and that upon his death he would forever change the course of my father's future. What little did I know how Uncle Bruce would change the lives of millions of people around the world. That's what Fiaz Rafiq's book gives us, the reader, an insight to a chronological train ride into the life journey of a very special man, and how the world's journey continues without him, but a spirit is ever so present. Through Bruce Lee conversations we witness the memory of this intelligent, persuasive, muscular, small-framed man with a great Chinese accent, I might add, who created a vision for the future that would change the modern martial arts history. We learn how this man broke down the barriers of racism, kicked his way through the walls of Hollywood, discrimination, and bridged the worlds of East meets West. Even today his influence, popularity and fan base still continues to grow. After reading the diverse collection of interviews about that Fiaz managed to put together, no small feat, I must say I was absorbed. There were people I heard about as my father raised me. They were people that I personally knew growing up, but I didn't completely have all the dots connected to their relationship with Uncle Bruce. They were people I read about and even worked with in the entertainment industry. And then there were the tremendous athletes I've admired from afar, but had no idea how a man I called Uncle Bruce would leave his inspirational fingerprints on the minds, bodies and souls of so many people. Some of the people highlighted may be controversial, some may be from unrelated fields, yet there is a common thread that flows through the fabric of what these people share together about one of the world's most influential icons, and they call him Bruce Lee. Diana Lee Santo. Preface. Bruce Lee belongs among the top echelon of influential stars and iconic figures in the world. More than 35 years after his death, he remains a perennial bestseller in video stores, comic book shops, on t-shirts and posters. When speaking of someone's place in history, the terms icon and legend are too often thrown about by tongues eager to confer praise. These designations would more properly be reserved for individuals whose profound impact on the globe around them seem too great to measure. With that in mind, the terms icon and legend could be no more aptly applied to anyone in the last half century than Bruce Lee. And it talks more about Bruce Lee and how he had a greater impact than Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley and James Dean combined. There's quite a lot of information here about Bruce Lee. You'll find in a lot of Bruce Lee biographies, but it actually goes deeper. The life. Chapter 1, original students. During his lifetime, Bruce Lee taught very few people, mostly in small groups and on a private basis. He started teaching martial arts shortly after his arrival in the United States in 1959. He taught a modified version of the Wing Chun system, which he later named Chun Fan Kung Fu. Initially, he taught some friends in Seattle and later opened his first branch of the Chun Fan Kung Fu Institute. Although when he later moved to California, his mantra of efficiency would lead him to form his own personal style with the focus on the most expedient solution to any possible encounter. The Seattle period is an integral part of Lee's time in the United States. We need some more of it. Some of the more prominent original students of Bruce Lee from this era included Jesse Glover, Taki Kimura, James DeMille, Patrick Strong, Doug Palmer, Skip Ellsworth, Leroy Garcia and Joe Kells, to name but a few. According to DeMille, Lee surrounded himself with street fighters. Most of his inner circle students had some street fighting experience. While studying philosophy at the University of Washington, he also worked at Ruby Charles restaurant to support himself. Lee's style was ever evolving, but its foundation took place here in Seattle. Jesse Glover was his first student and became a very close friend. Taki Kimura, his closest friend and his assistant instructor. The instructor was his confidant towards the end, when Lee finally got the fame he craved and became the biggest box office draw in Asia. And in 1964, Bruce moved to Oakland, California, and opened up his second branch of the Chun Fan Kung Fu Institute. This period, commonly known as the Oakland years, had a substantial impact on Bruce's evolution as a creative martial artist, and so forth. In 1966, shortly after moving to the Los Angeles area, Bruce decided to open up his third and final branch of the Chun Fan Kung Fu Institute, and did so in February of the following year. Located on 628 College Street in the Chinatown district, this secluded, anonymous-looking building had no signs outside to identify the gym. It was far from a commercial martial arts school. The individuals who were fortunate enough to train with the master were then there on a trial basis. Unless the prospective student proved himself, showing continued dedication along with reasonable improvement in the first 6 months, he would not be accepted as a full member of the Chun Fan Kung Fu Institute. Some of the most prominent and close-knit cadre of devotees from this period included Dan Inosato, Ted Wong, Dan Lee, Jerry Poteet, Bob Bremer, Larry Hartzell, Richard Postillo, Steve Golden, Pete Jacobs and Herb Jackson, who spent most of his time fixing his Sifu's unique, specialised training equipment. Lee's students were carefully chosen. Bruce preferred to have students with some previous martial arts training because it was easier for the student to appreciate more deeply what Bruce was trying to convey. I don't want too many students in my organisation. The fewer students I have, and the harder it is for anyone to join, will give my club more prestige and importance. Like anything else, if it's too popular and too easy to join, people won't think too highly of it, Bruce said. Bruce's most important prerequisites when selecting a student were a person's sincerity in learning and willingness to train hard. In addition to these qualities, persistent training and the student's potential to extend himself in strenuous martial arts activity, which was fundamental to his Jeet Kune Do philosophy, was also imperative. And so forth. And here is a personal insight by his first student, Jesse Glover. Jesse R. Glover was Bruce Lee's first ever student in the United States and his assistant in the early years when Lee was based in Seattle. Both men attended Edison High School and became close friends, going beyond the typical student-teacher relationship. Today, Jesse teaches his unique style of non-classical Kung Fu privately and is known worldwide as being one of Lee's top students from the Seattle period, as well as being one of the most gifted students Lee ever had. Question: Jesse, you were the first person in the United States to be accepted as Bruce Lee's student. Can you recall how and when you first met Bruce? Jesse Glover: the first time I saw Bruce was at a demonstration in Chinatown. He did a form from the southern praying mantis and an exhibition of dancing. Later I discovered that we went to the same school, so I used to walk in front of him and kick telephone poles, thinking he would be curious and ask me something, but he didn't. So one day I decided to walk up to him. I knew his name from the demonstration, but I asked him if he was Bruce Lee, and he said yes. I asked him if he did Kung Fu, and he said yes. I said to him, would he teach me, and he thought for a while and asked if I had a place where we could train where no one else was around. I said yes. So we walked to school, talked about Kung Fu, and he showed me some stuff that day. We walked back that night. He asked me where I lived, and I told him. He came down to my house that evening and started teaching me. How would you describe his personality? Jesse Glover: he was like this. If he liked you, he liked you, and if he didn't like you, he just wouldn't talk to you. He liked to joke around. Even Ed Hart, who was a second student, they both had a sense of humour. They told a lot of jokes. He was a fun guy to be around. Like I said, if he liked you, he liked you. He liked to go to the movies. Jerry Lewis was his favourite actor. He liked to dance and draw. During the intermission, we would practice a little. During the movie, he would be engrossed in the movie. Did he have a temper, or was he a calm person? Jesse Glover: well, he was both. If you made him mad, he'd get mad. But when I knew him and the people that were there, most of them really liked Bruce. Even the guys who didn't care about Kung Fu liked Bruce as a personality. It's a little insight into Bruce Lee by Jesse Glover. Why do you think Bruce broke tradition by investigating other arts? At the time, a lot of martial arts instructors did not want to teach foreigners. He started modifying stuff when he came to the US. He got into trouble with an older man who did not like the fact that he was teaching foreigners. He broke tradition in Seattle for sure. Ruby Chow, who owned the restaurant where he worked and lived, didn't like the fact he was teaching foreigners. She said, "You're teaching black guys this and that, they're going to beat up on Chinese." He said, "Well, they can beat up on Chinese anyway, so if I teach them, they're going to have some respect for Chinese." Yeah, he was the first Chinese who was teaching non-Chinese. Did you ever witness Bruce in an actual incident? We were doing a demonstration at school and a guy in the audience had a problem. Bruce said Kung Fu is a soft style and karate is a hard style. He challenged Bruce. Bruce asked us if he should do something about the challenge, but we told him to forget it and that it isn't worth the time. The guy was a judo player but also a black belt in karate. I used to play judo against the guy and I could throw him, but he had a hard time throwing me. He saw Bruce doing a demonstration of another style and thought that's how Bruce would fight. So he kept challenging him until one day he sent the stupid guy over and issued a challenge. Bruce and I were at school. When I came out of the door, he told me to go tell the guys to meet him on the third floor. I told him we can't fight here in the school, so he said at the Y Club. So the fight was set up. We got the bus and went to the Y. The guy put on his gi. Bruce took off his shirt. I was the referee and Ed was the timer. The fight was supposed to stop after 3 rounds. The guy got in a cat stance. The guy threw a kick. Bruce blocked the kick, got the guy on the floor, bounced him off the wall and kept hitting him and chased him. I held it stop. The fight lasted 11 seconds. James DeMille. James W. DeMille was part of the inner circle of Bruce Lee's students from the Seattle period, who had trained with him privately. DeMille had an impressive boxing background before meeting and training with Lee. After Lee's death, he continued to spread the word globally, basing his system, which he refers to Tao of Wing Chun Do, on the teaching and principle of Lee's original system. He is no doubt one of the more well-known original students of Bruce Lee. This is his perspective of the Bruce Lee he knew. Q. James, please tell me your introduction to Bruce Lee. James DeMille. In late 1959, I was attending a public school for adults who had not finished high school. Bruce had been expelled from a Catholic private school in Hong Kong and needed to earn make-up credits in order to get into the University of Washington. I had quit school in order to go to the Air Force and also needed additional credits. One day during a free period, I noticed that there was a lot of activity in the auditorium and stopped to look at the bulletin board to see what was going on. It was a special event for the different Asian countries to demonstrate aspects of their culture. It sounded interesting, so I went in and sat in the back. There was a young Chinese kid leaping around the stage making weird noises, kicking and punching into the air. He was extremely agile, graceful, and his movements flowed from one to another without any interruption. His final burst of energy was a high spinning kick, where he reached forward and slapped his foot, then landed in an odd-looking stance that reminded me of a tiger getting ready to attack. He paused and then he went on to explain that there were many forms in Chinese Kung Fu, and this one was called Chi Kung Do, and that they were all very effective methods of self-defense. I thought that this was amusing, since I had been undefeated heavyweight boxer in the military and had been brought up in an orphanage where fighting was an everyday event. To me, fighting was a lot more involved than leaping around as if you were fighting butterflies. This kid had a lot to learn about what fighting was really like. After his demonstration, I went up to join a small group that was talking to the kid. The kid was pawing and poking at the air while bobbing and weaving like a drunken monkey. I must have shown my disbelief because the kid stopped and looked at me with a curious smile. He asked if I had any questions. I quickly told him here in America, fighting was not a game, and that all his fancy moves would not work against a fast street fighter. His smile vanished and he moved in front of me and asked if I would take a punch at him. For a moment I was speechless. I couldn't believe he was serious. He was 5'7" and about 135 pounds. I was 5'10" and 225 pounds. But I suddenly realised he was serious and that everyone was looking at me for a response. Feeling totally confident, I said, okay, and dropped back into a loose boxer stance. He stood there relaxed with both arms hanging by his side. I thought I would tap him lightly on the forehead with my jab, which should impress him with my speed and control. I fired a quick jab with my left. The next few moments were my first steps to learning humility. In a blink, the kid exploded into action, not only blocking my punch but yanked my body towards the floor, engaging my right arm and interlocking it with my left, so I felt like a pretzel. It was an odd feeling. I could not move. He had trapped both my arms and grounded me so I could not kick or even take a step. He smiled, tapped me on the forehead as if to ask, is anyone home? And then he released his pressure and stepped back. This was my first introduction to Bruce Lee. I immediately joined a small group he was training with. We will end that there because we have somewhere else to be at this moment. But we will continue in a part 2. You can ask us to do this in the comments and we'll get back to you with our reply. If you enjoyed this video on this particular book, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Please subscribe to our channel. Give us a like, and then share this video with all your family, friends, and others who are ardent, hardcore Bruce Lee fans. If we get enough demand for part 2, we'll see you in part 2.